Over 2,400 books have been banned in Malaysia. But this book in particular wasn't just banned. It got a prominent radio host arrested and nearly shut down a global bookshop brand in Malaysia.
Sebab banyak dalam tu unsur-unsur yang negatif lah dari segi akidah dan sebagainya. Jadi kita tak nak perkara itu berlaku lah.
In May 2012, independent publisher ZI Publications released a Bahasa Malaysia version of Allah, Liberty and Love by Canadian author Irshad Manji. That set in motion a chain of legal actions that lasted nearly a decade, ending recently with a ruling that could change Malaysia's stance on book banning forever. Allah, Liberty and Love, which contains alternative views about practicing faith without fear, went on sale in Malaysia in June 2011. In May 2012, ZI Publications released a Bahasa Malaysia version, Allah, Kebebasan dan Cinta. Before the month was over, JAIS would raid ZI Publications. They confiscated all copies of the book and arrested ZI director Ezra Zaid, a prominent activist and radio host on BFM at the time. On the same day, the Home Ministry issued a prohibitive order on both English and BM versions of the book, with the ban coming into effect a month later. Ezra was charged by JAIS under Section 16(1)A of the Sharia Criminal Offences Selangor Enactment 1995, a law criminalizing religious publication contrary to Islamic law. If convicted, Ezra would face a maximum fine of 3,000 ringgit or 2 years in jail or both.
Even though there was a Sharia trial scheduled against Ezra, in consultation with us as his lawyers, decided to file 2 main civil cases. This was necessary, we felt, because there were constitutional issues, and it was only the Civil High Court that had jurisdiction to deal with these constitutional issues. And when any decision is made by any public authority in Malaysia, the correct forum to go is the Civil High Court through judicial review.
Meanwhile, JAWI raided and seized the books from a Borders outlet at the Gardens Mall. It also arrested and prosecuted store manager Nick Raina Nick Abdul Aziz under Section 13(1) of the Sharia Criminal Offences Federal Territory Act for allegedly selling and distributing books contrary to Islamic laws. In both Ezra's and Nick Raina's cases, if the companies were publishing and selling the book, why did Islamic authorities go after the employee and director instead?
Even though he's a director and he's a mind of the company, he cannot be held liable for the actions of the company. Companies are artificial persons that cannot profess the religion of Islam, and this is tried law.
In short, JAIS could not take action against ZI and Borders because it can only bring charges against individuals who profess to be Muslims, not companies. But they could take actions against the Muslim individuals at those companies who were in charge, so to speak, such as Ezra and Nick Raina. Ezra filed civil challenges against the seizure of the books, his arrest, and the Sharia trial. The High Court dismissed his challenge in 2018, but the Court of Appeal granted a court order against JAIS in 2019 to drop their arrest and Sharia trial against Ezra. JAIS appealed, but the federal court upheld the Court of Appeal's decision in 2020, which meant that Ezra was finally acquitted after nearly 9 years in court. And in 2022, an agreement was reached for damages related to his wrongful prosecution. In Nick Raina's case, the High Court ruled the raid and seizure of the books as illegal in 2013 and ordered the withdrawal of a Sharia trial. JAWI appealed the decision, but they were dismissed by both the Court of Appeal and Federal Court in 2015, resulting in Nick Raina's acquittal after 3 years.
The individual was prosecuted because of their relationship with the company. I'm not really sure what the religious authorities were hoping to achieve with all of this, but I think they felt very strongly that the book, especially when it was published in Malay and translated to Malay, the common reason that they give is it confuses Muslims. A book by sisters in Islam long ago was banned because it could confuse Muslims. The court said, no, that's not a ground to ban a publication.
But book banning in Malaysia doesn't just happen under Sharia law. We also have the Printing Presses and Publications Act 1984 or PPPA, under which over 2,400 books have been banned. The PPPA gives the Home Affairs Minister absolute discretion to ban books they consider prejudicial to public order, without actually defining what would constitute prejudicial to public order.
There's no real guidelines that are published as to when these powers can be exercised. Certain broad principles apply. So if you want to say that something is contrary to public order, courts have accepted to a certain extent that public order means an imminent threat of violence. And therefore you can only ban a publication if you feel that by circulating that book or that pamphlet, violence could happen like very soon. And so that is part of the problem in having vague laws about restricting speech, restricting expression.
Even though Ezra and Nick Raina's cases involved religion, the practice of book banning in general could have a chilling effect on society as a whole.
When you say you ban a book, it means that we fear that if you read this, you do not have the mental capacity to critically assess this and understand this and to reject it. It's this antiquated kind of idea of trying to control people's minds. I think now employers of publications, right, they have to be now mindful of the potential legal implications that arise from the books that they put there. And maybe it may lead to, maybe we don't want a Muslim as a manager now, because it may put you in a position of exposure. And they are now having to think, okay, we may need to have extra funds in the event there is such a raid that happens. That's the onus it puts on the company. There's now this whole dimension that they have to deal with, which I suppose they never thought about when they thought they were just, hey, I'm just selling books here.
What happened to Ezra and Nick Raina could still happen to anyone. As long as these book banning policies under PPPA and Islamic laws persist, it's down to the courts to determine the lawfulness of book bans on a case-by-case basis.
In both the Berjaya case and the Zerai publication case involving the religious authorities, the courts found that the actions of the religious authorities were irrational. What this means is, it's so unreasonable that no right-thinking person would do something like that. And so why would you go and prosecute a mid-level store manager? Why would you prosecute the director of a company, knowing full well that you have no powers over the company? But if you're asking whether it's right to ban a book or any other publication purely because of the ideas it expresses, most Malaysians will know if the ideas there are controversial, but they will ask questions. And asking questions shouldn't be wrong. You have plenty of opportunity to educate, to bring to the attention of readers that these ideas are wrong and these are better ideas that can be dealt with. Really, there is no room at all to ban books on the basis of the ideas that it contains.